Hey, what's up, everyone? And thanks for tuning into this exciting webinar. If you're thinking about selling worldwide, going global with your e-commerce store, you are in the right place because in this webinar, we will lay out everything you need to know to embark on your international e-commerce journey and how Shopify Plus can help you with that. So what will we cover today? The topics for today there are a lot of topics, but we start with an introduction to international e-commerce. Then how to expand into new markets, the 4 ways to go global, the best ways to localize the customer experience. Then the famous debate ongoing in e-commerce is, should you go for the multi-currency or for the multi-store approach? And then at the end, we're making the case for headless e-commerce. So how a headless setup can help you when you're embarking on your international e-commerce journey. But before we dive into those topics, I would first like to introduce myself and Story of AMS. So I'm Sam Van Nies. I'm the co-founder and strategy director of Story of AMS. And Story of AMS is the leading e-commerce agency. We're based in Amsterdam. We're now with a team of 35 talented people. And what we do on a daily basis is build and scale e-commerce brands. So design, strategy, content, and technology needed to build and scale e-commerce brands. We have many amazing clients from Bowls to Signify to Intersport. And yeah, that's that for the short introduction. I hope you have your notebook and pen ready because it's time to dive in. So international e-commerce, what is it? Well, international e-commerce is selling products through a custom e-commerce website or a shopping platform like Shopify to customers in other countries. And according to a recent survey done by Shopify themselves, is that 35% of all Shopify traffic comes from international visitors, which is quite a lot. And e-commerce cross-border sales are projected to grow by 14% annually over the next 5 years, which basically means that the international e-commerce market will grow faster than domestic e-commerce markets in every region across the globe. And that is pretty insane. And this accounts for all industries, by the way. So furniture, appliances, food, personal care, electronics, you name it. And even more, by the end of this year, it is estimated that 2.1 billion online shoppers will be online. So whatever country you're living in and are operating in right now, there are opportunities for growth across the border and customers who are waiting and looking for the products that you have to offer. But then here's the thing, as soon as the word international or global gets thrown into a conversation, most people assume that it must be something, that's difficult. But in fact, thanks to platforms like Shopify Plus, selling worldwide has never been more accessible. Is it a piece of cake? Certainly not. But the fact is that technology did make it easier. But being successful at selling worldwide still, is a bit more of a challenge, because in order to be successful in international e-commerce, you must personalize the customer experience to every region and navigate complex regulatory and financial hurdles. But that's why you're here today. That's why you're tuned into this webinar, because we are going to show you how to sell worldwide with Shopify Plus, and more importantly, how to be successful. So how to expand into new markets. The moment that you've decided that you are interested or you're going to sell cross-border, you are faced with a lot of options. There are a lot of countries you can choose from, and thus a lot of opportunities. And it's for this reason that you see a lot of brands going for the sell to everyone, everywhere strategy. And this might seem like a good idea because the more countries you sell in, the bigger the pool of customers. So the more growth you can experience. But different markets across the globe are all nuanced with their own unique browsing and purchasing habits. So when this is the strategy you're going for, I can with confidence say that this will not work. There's also a famous saying in the advertising world that also applies to e-commerce. And that is, if you try to reach everyone, you will engage no one. And that's the same, like I said, with e-commerce and with your international e-commerce journey. So the best way to start out is not by going everywhere, but to identify key markets based upon data. So when you're already running in Shopify, you can take a look at your sessions by locations report in the analytics section, and here you can see whether you already have customers visiting from different countries. And then let's say you have a bunch of international visitors from various countries. We always say pick 1 or 2 or 3 of them with the most visitors and investigate those further. Because if you investigate those further, it may be the case that you already have some sales from those countries, And in the end, the goal of all of this is to identify 1 or 2 markets that you can start selling to, that you can expand to, instead of just going everywhere. If you're not running on Shopify yet, what you can do is take a look at your Google Analytics. So in Google Analytics, you can also view in your locations report, if you have visitors from different countries, to see whether there's actual interest or whether it's interesting to sell cross-border or not. If you don't have any international visitors, you don't see anything in your Shopify dashboard or in Google Analytics, there's no need to worry. No data, no problem. It is, of course, better to have data, but in the end, if you don't have data, it's still the same process. You need to identify 1 or 2 markets that are in close proximity or share the same native language and have similar purchasing habits. So if you are in Canada, you can sell your products in the US or vice versa. If you are in the UK, you can go to the US or to other English-focused European countries. Scandinavian countries can look into Germany, the Netherlands, etc. It's just important that you take it step by step. And it is a bit of a cliche, but Amazon started with selling just books. They didn't start with being the everything store. They started with only 1 product. And it's most likely also how all of you started, not with hundreds or tens of products, but with a few products. And that's also how you want to embark on this international e-commerce journey. Start with going to 1 or 2 new markets first, and then go to more markets from there on. Then, the 4 ways to go global. So there actually are 4 ways to go global. And the first one is marketplaces. So Amazon, eBay, Mercado Libre, you name it. There are a lot of huge marketplaces that you can sell your products on. And in fact, 47% of global online sales take place on marketplaces. So that's huge. But while testing your entry into a new region through a marketplace, that can reduce risk because it's less of an investment. You don't need to build a new store. You can just create your account on the marketplace. But marketplaces does have its disadvantages. Besides negatively impacting your profit margins, brands selling on marketplaces lose the valuable customer data that you would get from your own branded e-commerce site. And this data, is actually one of the biggest advantages of direct-to-consumer e-commerce. It's the relationship that you have and can build with your customers, which allow you to tailor to their needs and innovate way better. So testing new regions through marketplaces is a valid option, but there are disadvantages. You lose the data and you can cut into your profit margin. Number 2, resellers. You can consider partnering with third parties already embedded in the channels and markets you're not yet established in. So for example, if you're selling protein powder, you can think about using online sports stores or other relevant resellers to sell your products and figure out whether there's demand or not. That's the second option. The third one is wholesale. That's another option for selling your products is through brick and mortar retailers. So try to enter local supermarkets, electronic stores, or other stores. If you go for the wholesale strategy, the important metric to keep in mind here to establish whether there's interest and demand or not is by keeping an eye on the reorder rate. This data point can really help you understand whether there's real interest. Then the last one is e-commerce. it's your own unique branded e-commerce website, which you can scale across the globe. And this is really the best solution by far for brands that value their direct-to-consumer relationships and want to remain in control of the future. And this is also what we're going to discuss in depth right now, since most of you watching this are indeed established, growing, and ambitious e-commerce brands. And we at Story of AMS are e-commerce experts, and we're not wholesale experts. So the next topic, the best way to localize the customer experience. When going global, it is important to keep in mind at all times that every region is different. You know, of course, it's the language and the culture, but also the payment methods and the purchasing habits. So successful international e-commerce, like I said before, is based upon localizing the customer experience. And there are actually 5 features you can implement or you need to implement that will help you sell globally or a few different markets from a single store. And the first one is multi-currency. You can translate your online store perfectly, but unless your international visitors can pay in their local currency, your global ambitions will not scale. 92% of shoppers prefer to make purchases on sites that price in their local currency. So if you're selling globally on Shopify Plus, in order to do this, you can take advantage of the multi-currency solution, which, for example, lets buyers check out in their preferred currency while you get paid in your local currency. And this can all happen from a single store. And there are also multiple other options to set up your international pricing strategy, such as adjusting the prices based upon percentage for each country. You can also set specific prices for your inventory, and you can also set the exchange rate manually for even greater control of your product pricing. When it comes to multi-currency, there are some risks associated, especially, for example, if you get your products made in one country and sell it in another, currencies, etc. can be different. So if you don't set up your international pricing right, so adjusting the prices to each country you sell in, you can cut in your profit margins. So it's something to take a close look at how you will set up your pricing strategy. Then multi-language. This one is simple. You know, customers are most comfortable shopping in their own language. So a recent study by Gallup found that 42% of Europeans never purchase products and services in a language other than their own, which is pretty insane because most European countries are pretty much focused on English. You know, you have your own language and then you can speak fluently English, but still 42% of Europeans never purchase a product in a language other than their own. So you need to have multiple languages from your single web shop, and you can translate that with Shopify Plus. You can translate your website up to 20 additional languages using their multi-language feature. So that's really nice. Another one, international domains. If a customer perceives shipping as being slow, they're more likely to abandon their cart. And in fact, one survey revealed that 22% of online shoppers leave items in their cart if they think that shipping will take too long. And one indication that shipping might be slow, that it might take too long, is when customers see a domain name that's different from their own country. So when selling globally from your shop, you need to utilize an international domain strategy. International domain strategy, you can go for 2 different methods. You can go for country-specific domain. So let's say proteinpowder.com, proteinpowder.nl, etc. Or you can go for a subdomain strategy. So nl.proteinpowder.com, uk.proteinpowder.com. Then there's always the question, what is better for SEO? There's actually no real concrete data whether a country-specific domain or subdomain strategy is better for SEO. You also see the big brands like Nike, Gymshark, Apple. They all do different things. Some of them use country-specific, others go for the subdomain. What we recommend, based upon our experience, is if you're active in more than 3 countries, you should go for the subdomain strategy, because this way you can leverage the domain authority of the main domain and carry that into other countries you're launching in. And in addition to that, the subdomain strategy overall results in less overhead in terms of tech complexity, I mean. Another one, geolocation. This is number 4 out of the 5. For foreign customers visiting your store, it can really be a turnoff if the currency or language automatically defaults to, let's say, English and the US dollar. With geolocation services, you can avoid making a bad first impression by immediately welcoming customers to a site specific to their region or country by personalizing the language and currency preferences that really reflect where they're shopping from. So when you visit the site with geolocation, it will show like a language and currency recommendation as a bar or pop-up, and all those features that just fit seamlessly with your brand. The last one, payment methods. I said it before, but every country is different when it comes to payment methods. In the US, Visa, MasterCard, Amex, PayPal, those are all seen as the standard forms of payments. While in the Netherlands, it's, for example, ideal. So if you don't offer local payment methods, you are just creating a big hurdle for your customers. And the average conversion rate globally as of right now, and as reported by Shopify Plus, sits at 2.17%. So what we always say is offer those local payment methods so you don't give cross-border shoppers another excuse to leave your store without making a purchase. The nice thing about Shopify Plus is that you can use Shopify payments, and that in addition to the big payment options, you can also set up payments in Klarna, in Sofort, in Ideal, in Bankcontact, and Shopify payment adds new payment options every year. So that's really nice. Multi-store versus multi-currency. Now that we have discussed how to sell cross-border from a single store, it's time to jump in this famous e-commerce debate. Should brands sell globally from a single store, or should you have a multi-store setup? Well, whether to create multiple stores or go global from a single store actually depends on 2 critical aspects. And it's also surprising that there aren't a lot of resources out there talking about this, but there are actually 2 critical factors that determine for you whether you can go global from a single store or that you need multiple stores. And number 1 is if you want to split payments between different countries you're selling in. So let's say you have, you're a big brand, you have real operations in the Netherlands, in Germany and the UK. And if that's the case, you also want to make sure that where the sale is happening, the money also goes to those places. And that's only possible with a multi-store setup. Number 2 is if you want to integrate multiple shipment providers, so local shipment providers to ensure fast shipping in that respective country. For this, you also need to create multiple storefronts. You also have people saying, yeah, you can choose for an internationally focused shipping partner like UPS, but the fact is that those are never faster than the local shipment providers. So if you're serious about competing in different countries and you want to offer fast shipment options, you need multiple storefronts. There is an exception to this rule. If you use a shipping integration partner, like for example, SendCloud, SendCloud adjusts the shipment provider based on the country the products need to be shipped to. Drawback from this is that it is most likely limited to a smaller region, such as Europe. So if you truly want to go global, you're now in a bunch of different countries in Europe and want to go to India, for example, or the US, you do need multiple storefronts. If with these 2 options are both not the case, there are still a lot of reasons to create multiple storefronts instead of selling in a few different markets from a single store. If you really want to take into account how shopping habits, needs, and problems differ among customers from different countries. So custom products, discounts, marketing based on different holidays in countries. You also need a multi-store approach. Another option, or not another option, another reason for the multi-store approach are the payment methods. So I discussed before the ability to localize the customer experience from a single store with local payment methods, but the only drawback from that approach when it comes to the payment methods is that with that single store approach, it would show all the payment methods that you have to offer at the checkout. While with multiple storefronts, you can show only the local relevant payment method. So it's really hyper localized. Then in this debate, should you sell globally from multiple stores or from one store? There's another thing we always hear about from clients, and that is about SEO. What will happen to my SEO? SEO is important. About half of online shoppers use a search engine to inspire their shopping. So you need to make sure that your international site structure is optimized for search in the countries you're targeting. The thing is, when you internationalize from a single Shopify store, Shopify handles SEO for you with sitemaps for each domain and href lang tags that are automatically generated. If you're choosing to expand with multiple stores, however, you can use the same domain strategy, but the only thing is that you need to implement the href lang tags manually. But if you do this correctly, your SEO should work perfectly fine. Now, there's also another great option when going global, and that is a headless e-commerce solution. So let's look at two scenarios. Number one, you have multiple storefronts running right now with Shopify Plus. And number two is you're growing really fast and are planning to open up another storefront with Shopify Plus. So when that's the case with these two scenarios, your setup will look like this or will look like this in the near future. To be clear, we love Shopify Plus, but it does present some common challenges for e-commerce brands selling in more than one place. So today, in order to sell abroad with Shopify Plus, you will require a liquid Shopify Plus storefront for each country that you're selling in. Meaning each website has its own code base that needs to be managed, separately, which first of all leaves a lot of room for human error. Then managing multiple code bases for multiple stores just requires more human capital or even duplicate teams to handle all the workload of managing multiple code bases. Also, content editing with one code base, there's a lot of repetition in making changes or slight regional nuances across stores. So it's just a lot of work and it can complicate going global and opening up another store. It's also common that the tech stack apps, the add-ons and the tools, only apply to one store. So if you want to duplicate the functionality across multiple stores for the countries you're selling in, you must also multiply the cost of the tools by the numbers of stores you have. So overall, the primary challenges with Shopify Plus as your international e-commerce platform are rooted in the fact that each liquid Shopify Plus store that you will have require its own code base and respective management. Well, to eliminate these problems, you might want to consider switching over to a headless e-commerce setup. So with a headless setup, your international tech architecture will look like this. This might look a bit more complicated, I don't know, but it's actually super easy. With the right headless commerce platform, you have one code base to manage everything. So in this case, it's Next.js. So it's one code base for every store in every region, where traditionally expanding to another region requires another store, which can create, duplicate work and leaves more room for human error. With a headless setup, changes can be made on a global scale by one person or one team, and this just greatly reduces the management time and the opportunities for mistakes. Then we talked about those tech apps, the add-ons. The average Shopify store has 6 apps, running on their store. And as mentioned, multiple code bases can require multiple iterations of the same e-commerce tools, which can significantly increase your tech stack costs and management resources. With a single code base that Headless e-commerce unlocks, that eliminates this issue entirely. So you can purchase your tech stack tools once and use them across all of your stores and manage them in one place. Then another one is Headless CMS. So as you can see right here, with the Headless CMS, we use Storyblock. Shopify is an e-commerce system which has a lot of content capabilities, but it doesn't yet come close to what the Headless CMS can offer. A Headless CMS offers a bunch of advantages, but I'm going to discuss the 3 main advantages of a Headless CMS over using the CMS that Shopify Plus has to offer. Number 1 is content-rich product and collection pages. So with Shopify, you are limited with, for example, how product pages look or how collection pages look. With Headless, you can make these pages way more dynamic. So include different types of content on product pages, detail pages, add email captures, how-to videos, product-specific FAQs, product sliders, you name it. And our Headless CMS partner, as you can see right here, is Storyblock. And with Storyblock, you can create predefined blocks. So title, FAQ, media, etc. And these blocks can be reused on all pages without limitations, allowing your marketing team to easily create new landing pages, run A/B tests, and optimize, for example, your existing pages. Another benefit of Headless CMS is the flexible URL structure. So when using Shopify Plus as your content management system, you are limited with regards to the URL structure, which can be bad for your SEO. So let's say you're creating a lot of content, you work with landing pages for your SEO. In that case, okay, we go back to the example of the supplement store protein powder. When you want to create a SEO-focused landing page all about protein powder, it will then say supplement.com/pages/protein powder. And the /pages is just set in stone. You can't delete it, get rid of that. With a Headless CMS, on the other hand, you can just create supplement.com/protein powder, which is better for your SEO, and overall it just looks better. It's just weird that you have the word pages in between. When you create a lot of content as a brand, a Headless CMS allows you to just have all sorts of advanced nesting solutions for your URL structure. Then another advantage, that is better native language support. So the main issue with Shopify Plus is that it lacks a specialized CMS with multi-language translation capabilities. So for simple e-commerce stores, the Shopify CMS will do, but for the more demanding brands, it just doesn't work that great as of right now. But to be honest, you can't blame Shopify for this. You can't be the best in 2 markets, be the best e-commerce platform, and be the best content management system. It's just that as of right now, a Headless CMS offers more advanced multi-language translation capabilities and advanced CMS modeling. Headless e-commerce overall addresses the specific challenges with using Shopify Plus as your international e-commerce platform for everything. But when going headless, it also extends the general benefits of headless commerce to all of your stores, meaning unlimited customization, which result in you being able to fully customize how it looks, the custom branding, better site speed, mobile first functionality, which overall lead to a superior shopping experience. And when going headless, what we see with our clients and what is measured across the industry is that when you go headless, you can expect to see improved e-commerce KPIs. So better conversion rate, higher average order value, more return on ad spend, and just increasing revenue. We have a lot of webinars that go more in depth about headless e-commerce on our channel, on our YouTube channel, which I will also include one in the follow-up email of this webinar. And you can also find countless other resources on our website on Headless e-commerce if you are interested in learning more. But that's it for this webinar. I hope you have a better understanding on how to sell worldwide, whether you should do that from a single store or multi-store, and last but not least, whether headless commerce is right for you. If you still have any questions, please feel free to reach out to hello@storevamps.com, or you can reach out directly to me at sam@storevamps.com, or you can send us a message on Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn, where we will be online for the rest of the day to respond to any questions. So thanks again for watching this webinar. I hope you learned some new things, and have a great rest of your day.